We've had a pretty decent reading year for the most part. There's only been a few books where I didn't necessarily hate them, but I also didn't enjoy them. And there have been even less books where I absolutely hated them. And today we're going to talk about the ones that I absolutely hated, because why the heck not? We're going to start off strong with the most recent, which is Haunting Adeline. If you guys have watched any of the most recent vlogs, you already know how I feel about this book and why I feel the way that I feel about this book, but we're going to talk about it anyway. Haunting Adeline is a stalker romance. One red flag anyway, but that could have been cute. Honestly, I know it's crazy for me to say, but that could have been cute. It was just the execution, the plot of this book. It was absolutely horrendous. And you know what I find just baffling? Books that are this bad always have the nerve to be 500 plus pages. Not only are you terrible, easily a 1 star, but with books like this, they always have the nerve to be so long. And not only that, the cherry on top of this book is the fact that it left on a cliffhanger. So they expect you to read another 500-page terrible book. Can you imagine? That is so crazy to me. That is so crazy to me. I mean, I already can't DNF, so that's already a problem. Can you imagine if I decided to be curious and continue to read? No, I'm sorry. Nothing can make me read the second book. It was just so unbelievably terrible. And there's just a few reasons. Number one, the plot was held together by literally a string. It was so flimsy, so ridiculous, so annoying that I was like, girl, who are you trying to kid? Because she kept pretending like, oh, it's all one-sided. Only he is obsessed with her. She was obsessed with this man from the beginning. Like, it was just so annoying. And then to pretend that you're not, but then doing things that are completely different from your stream of consciousness. It was like gaslighting the reader. It was just so insane and so unbelievable. And it was quite annoying. I felt like the main character was very annoying. And it gave almost like pick-me energy. Like, I'm so different from the other girls. Like, scary things like make me excited and think, like, it was just weird. It was just weird and I didn't like it. It wasn't a good weird. It wasn't a fun weird. No. I was trying to get into dark romance and this was my first like view of that. Child. Wrong book. Just wrong. Easy 1 star, easy 0.5 star book. It was just so bad, like laughably bad. And it wasn't just that the plot was not there. The character development, non-existent. She also tried to add like so many other parts. Like there was supposed to be a mystery she was solving throughout the whole thing. That was so obvious, like so flimsy, like barely any effort. There was barely any effort in all the like plot lines, that it was just altogether terrible. And that's just the plot. That's not even the execution, because the execution was worse than the plot. Not only because the story was terrible, but also because the dialogue was some of the cringiest, like unbelievable stuff that I have ever heard in my life. Okay, like ever. It was to the point where I would get a physical reaction every time I read a page. Like I'm flipping a page and I'm just like slowly breaking down because it's just so crazy and so unbelievable. The fact that this author was writing at her table saying these words, she read it, an editor read it multiple times and they were still like, yeah, it's a go. We're gonna publish this. Crazy. Sometimes you need a little tough love. Sometimes you need that person to hold your hand and tell you not to put it out. You know what I mean? And I just don't feel like she had that on the team. And it was very evident. So that's number one. Then to make things worse, I also finished the Knock 'Em Out series by Lucy Score. You already know how that went. It was absolutely horrendous. The same issues that I always have with her. The dialogue was terrible. The plot was barely there. The story was okay. The stories are always so long, so drawn out. They could have easily been finished in 300, even 400 pages, but she always does that 500 plus page thing and it just is not necessary. It's a huge, I'm sorry, waste of time. Like it's just so ridiculous and the dialogue is so cringy. The smut is out of this world and it just keeps getting worse. And I read the other one because I was curious and I learned my lesson after that and I was like, you know what? I did this with Lucy Score. I'm not going to do this with the Haunting Adeline author. I can't remember her name right now. I think I'm blocking it out. But I'm just going to do the 2 Lucy Score books as a 2-for-1. So that just counts as 1 book because that was just one big mistake. And you would think from that experience I would learn my lesson, but no, I just continued down the booktok romance rabbit hole and just found myself finding another terrible book. And that was Fall With Me by Becca Mack. Gosh. I don't know what to say about this one. I will say the plot was better in this book, and I liked the two characters. So one was a black girl. She had curly hair. She came from a good family. She was learning how to love herself, things like that. And the other guy, he was a hockey player. He was a white guy, but super cute, super like loving, and he loved cats. And I liked the basic skeleton of the plot. Basically, she became the photographer for his team. They had a one-night stand at first, and that's how they met. They thought they would never see each other again. And then it turns out her new job is where he works. And obviously it's like a forced proximity thing, and they slowly fall in love. And that was cool. Like, I liked that idea. I like a sports romance. I like when they're forced to work together and things like that. But the dialogue in this was crazy. You know what it is? I just am genuinely so curious to figure out where they get this from. Like, for me, especially with romance, it's kind of escapism. Like, I find myself in the characters. Or if I can't find myself directly in those characters, I want to be like the best friend or the fly on the wall that can really see the entire picture of the story. And I can't do that when they say some of the wildest things I have ever heard. I'm sorry, the SD card was full, but anyway, it's not even that the smut was an issue or, you know, how much smut is in a book. It's just, it has to be done well. You just can't be saying the things that they were saying. It was just giving me the ick so bad. Like, if you're trying to make a sexy mood, you can't say things like that. Like, I can't even say examples. Because it's so bad. It literally is like pouring ice cold water on you when you're just trying to get through a story. It brings me right out the story every single time. And it was so frequent that I was just so detached from the characters and their love story by the end of it, because I was just so turned off by the execution. And that's a shame, because it really did feel like it was going to be a good book. It was going to be cute. And it was my first book by this author, but I cannot do the dialogue. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about these new like romance authors, but it's like not good. I wish someone would tell them. Like, again, you wrote it down, had an editor read it, and then still thought it was okay. I don't know. Maybe it's me. But it was just so for me. You know what I mean? And that book was a shame for me, because I really thought it was going to be good. And I loved the idea of everything. It just was not well done, in my opinion. Now, this next one is actually a very surprising flop. I could not believe I did not like this book, just because I love the author. And that book is Life is Too Short by my girl, Abby Jimenez. And as you guys know, we stan Abby Jimenez. Abby Jimenez doesn't miss. Until now. Life is Too Short was so terrible. I could not believe it. Even when I read it, I was telling you guys, I'm like, this had to be a throwaway book. This had to be a deadline book. She had to get it done. She had a quota to meet, and that's why it exists. But nothing else makes sense, because she is such a good writer. There's so many books by her that I love, Just for the Summer, things like that. But this one was surprisingly terrible. And it follows this YouTuber. She thinks that she's dying, and so she's trying to live her life to the fullest until she gets a surprise at the door. She's left with a baby from her sister, and her whole life is upended, and she's trying to just be a good role model for this kid, right? And her neighbor is a lawyer who is very type A. He has his life together, and they're almost like opposites. And he hears the baby crying one night, and he decides to help her, and then from there they develop a relationship. And it just follows their love story, as well as her baggage and her family life and things like that. At first, I really thought I was going to connect with this story because she's a YouTuber, because we would have similar things going on in our lives. But this book was so unbelievably outlandish. Like, I felt like Abby had way too many plans, way too many ideas. Maybe she was going off a coffee high, or like maybe she was sleepy drunk, because I get like that, y'all know that. So maybe she was going off of that energy, and she had so many ideas going on in this one plot. She was a YouTuber, but she wasn't a normal YouTuber. She was like the Mr. Beast of YouTubers. She had an outlandish, crazy life, crazy love story, crazy connections. But on top of that, she has this love story with this lawyer. Then on top of that, she has to take care of this baby from her sister. Then on top of that, her dad has his own issues, and you're following that story. And then you're following the story from her little brother. And it was just so much going on. Your attention was split by 1,000 different things, and you could not focus on the storyline. You couldn't really find the real genuine plot. And it was just so all over the place for me. I was like, Please, no more. Too much. Too mas. You know what I mean? And that's just a shame because I felt like the ideas were really good. It was just too many ideas in one book. Maybe if she cut them in half and like really focused on developing the plot, developing the characters, I felt like this could have been really good. But the execution just, again, was not there. And because she's so wonderful, we don't fault Abby for this. No, this is a throwaway. This was in her growing era. We don't even count this book. This was by somebody else. We still stand Abby. It's just, if you're going to read any of her books, don't read this one. It's just not good. This was a practice book. Last but not least was a complete and utter mistake. And that was Devious Lies. The only reason why I read it, to be fair, was because it was free on Kindle Unlimited. I was looking for a romance. I remember the exact moment I decided to read this and was completely wrong. I was at the gym, and every time I'm on the stair stepper or the climber, you know what I'm talking about? The thing that kills your thighs. Anytime I'm on there, I always bring my Kindle so that I can read and forget that I'm in so much pain. I just finished a book and I was like, what do I do now? I need to find a book and I need to do it quickly because I'm dying. So I went on Kindle Unlimited. I was like, you know what? I'm in the mood for a romance. Let me find something. Then I read the synopsis for Devious Lies. I was like, ooh, enemies to lovers. She has to work for him. He used to work for her family. She's like younger. He's a little bit older. He's like a billionaire now. She's broke, but now she has to work for him and he's making her life terrible, but it's really because he wants her. Sign me up. This sounds amazing. And then I started reading it. And then I realized it's 700 plus pages. I just don't understand. Not only are you going to commit the crime of being terrible, but then you're going to do double homicide because the book is 700 pages? The audacity, the absolute gall. I cannot believe it. When I was reading it, my jaw was just on the floor. I was like, there's no way this book is this bad and it's this long. Like, you could have literally cut 40% of the book and it still would have been just as terrible. You would have summed it up easily though, put me out of my misery, and we could have been done with this whole thing. Maybe it would have been a whole 1.5 star or something like that. Maybe 2 stars if I was feeling generous. But no, she made it 700 plus pages and it was terrible. I just don't get it. I don't get it. There's something in the sauce. There's something in the method. Whenever I read a bad booktok romance book, it's always so long. It's absolutely ridiculous. It should be illegal. It should. Someone write this down. It should be illegal because I do not understand why that book was so long. It did not have to be that long. And you know, once I'm locked in, once I start page 1, put the shackles on me, I'm stuck in this book until I finish it. And that was just the way I felt the entire time. Every time I went to the gym, I just dreaded reading it because I'm like, there's no other time I'm willingly putting myself through reading this book. Let me just do this now because I'm already habit stacking. But gosh, this is terrible. It's so terrible. And it's the same things that I always hate about booktok romance books. The dialogue was insane. The plot was not there. It was just super poorly done. They were like good ideas, but strung together really poorly. It was like if you have really good ingredients to make a meal, but you just threw everything in the blender. Fruit, vegetables, meat, everything in the blender and then put a straw in it. It would be disgusting. And that's exactly how that book felt. That's exactly how all these booktok romance books feel. Oh my gosh, hindsight. All of these books are booktok romance books. I'm the problem. I'm the one who keeps picking things that I don't like. At least I know now. Anyway, those are all the books that absolutely ruined my reading experience this year. But I will say, out of all the 55 books I read this year, only 6 of them were this gosh darn mother freaking awful. And that's pretty much a win. That's like not bad percentage points, right? Like if I was an NBA player, that's not a bad percentage. I'm kind of onto something. It's just whenever I feel the need to read a romance, I really need to take a step back, look at where I'm getting it from, and see if it's worth reading. You know what I mean? I'm growing. Wow. Hopefully this is our last time doing a review where I'm this passionate about really bad books. If anything, it'd be nice to be really passionate about like a literary fiction book, because right now I just feel like I'm making the same mistakes. I'm reading the same wrong books. But I can accept if I read a bad book that I really thought was going to be good. And with these ones, I did think that they were going to be good, but I'm making the same formulaic mistakes. So I gotta stop. It's me. Wow. This was a nice therapy session. Anyway, let me know all the bad books that you read this year so that I can avoid them. Leave them down in the comments below. Also, like and subscribe. I love y'all so much. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Bye.